We're at Garfield School today. Kansas Heritage Day is taking place, and we get a chance to talk with two very pretty young ladies that have joined us here on Kansas Heritage Day. We have Emma Fregon and we have Candace Lippy with us. Emma, I'm going to start with you, okay? We're going to talk about a project that you guys have been working on. I guess first off, tell us about the project and kind of what went into it, and it's about famous Kansans and why were they considered famous. Talk about your project a little bit and who you studied.
I studied Susanna Salter. We made character sketches, and she was the first woman to be mayor in the United States. She received 2/3 of the votes. Amazing, right?
It is amazing, and it's amazing what you guys have done with the work. They did character drawings, as I said, where they could put their face into the picture and then look like the person they studied. Candace, tell us about your project and who you studied and why they were considered a famous Kansan.
I studied Carrie Nation. She was famous for attacking alcohol services with a hatchet. She disliked people who smoked or drank, and she passed 2 amendments, and they were 18th and the 19th. The 18th Amendment prohibited alcohol sale, and the 19th was women's rights to vote.
Again, we have Candace Lippy and we have Emma Fregon with us, and they've done some special research together and separately as well for Kansas Heritage Day. Now, each classmate did a research project, and you took notes about accomplishments. Name, Candace, I'll start with you. Name a couple of individuals that stood out to you and why they stood out.
Charles Curtis stood out to me because he helped Oklahoma become a state, and he was the first African Native American to become vice president. And Hattie McDaniel was the first African American to get an Oscar. She also was an actress and singer.
That's cool stuff. I think Hattie was in Gone with the Wind, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah, that's right. Emma, talk about some people that stood out to you.
Lauren Rooster stood out to me because she was a teacher that was politically driven. William Allen White was a famous author. He also was the governor of Kansas.
Ladies, you did super, okay? Great work, and your projects are awesome. So good work. I hope you enjoy the rest of Kansas Heritage Day. Candace Lippy and Emma Fregon with us on Kansas Heritage Day from Garfield School. Back again at Kansas Heritage Day at Garfield School, and we get a chance now to talk with Izzy Peterson and Robert Hendrickson. We're going to talk Santa Fe and Oregon Trail. And Izzy, we're going to lead off the questions with you, okay? Where did the Oregon-California Trail begin and end?
The trail went from Independence, Missouri to Santa Fe, Mexico.
And Robert, why did the people want to travel on this Oregon-California area?
Gold was discovered in 1848 in California. Many wanted to go to start new businesses for the farmland.
Absolutely, and gold out there. You got to go chase the gold down, right? Now, how much of the Oregon-California Trail went through our state and Kansas, Izzy?
The trail went over 900 miles long, and almost 500 miles of the trail came through Kansas.
Wow, that's impressive. Now, Robert, where did the Santa Fe Trail begin and end?
The trail began in Independence, Missouri, and ended near the Pacific Ocean.
Okay, quite a stretch there. And why did people, Izzy, want to travel the Santa Fe Trail?
People in the United States made items people in Mexico wanted and needed. Mexico also made items the United States wanted to trade for.
Cool stuff. And Robert, how much of the Santa Fe Trail went through Kansas?
The trail was over 200 miles long, and more than 140 miles of the trail came through Kansas.
So quite a bit of it. Robert and Izzy, you guys have done a great job. We appreciate you joining us on KCLY. Okay, enjoy the rest of Kansas Heritage Day. Great job. That's Izzy Peterson and Robert Hendrickson, part of Garfield School's Kansas Heritage Day. We're back at Garfield School. It's Kansas Heritage Day on KCLY, and Garfield School celebrating Kansas Heritage Day. A lot going on. You guys got a crowd walking by on your first interview of the day, so congratulations on that. We have a couple with us here, Jace Weller, who was the son of Matt and Nicole Weller, and Izzy Blackwood, the daughter of Chad and Amanda Blackwood. And guys, thanks for being a part of Kansas Heritage Day. I am going to start with a question for you, Izzy, okay? You guys are going to tell us about explorers. Which explorers are you going to talk about with KCLY?
I'm telling you about Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. They started their expedition in 1804 and ended it in 1806. America sent them to explore, and their expedition was very helpful. They chose over 30 men to go with them, and only one man died.
Wow, impressive, and especially at that day and age when they did that. Now, Jace, what were the reasons for exploring?
Well, I have a different explorer.
You have a different explorer. Well, tell me who you have then.
Today I'm going to tell you about Francisco Vázquez de Coronado. Coronado started his travel in 1510. He was determined to do whatever the Spanish Empire, called Spain, needed him to do to help the king. And that's where his story begins and his travel starts across America.
Awesome. So now explain the reasons for exploring.
His first reason for the expedition was that there was a rumor going around and that there were 7 cities of gold in America. The Spanish Empire wanted that to be theirs, so they sent an army of soldiers, led by Coronado, to find it and take it back. At first, all they looked for was gold. Then they found an Indian in which he claimed he knew where the treasures were.
And did he know, and what happened with the expedition?
What happened was Coronado trusted the Indian, which he made swear he wouldn't lead them to the wrong place. Coronado and his crew made their way through the mountains. The Indian said that they were getting close to the city of gold, which he claimed was called Wichita. They had almost made it through Wichita. Wichita wasn't made out of gold. The Indian had fooled him because he wanted to protect his family and tribe. Coronado killed him and went back to Mexico with nothing. Coronado found berries and good crops to grow back in Mexico. Although some people think of him as mean, I just think he had a bad case of gold fever.
I think you're exactly right. Got the best of him. Izzy, now tell the listeners that may have forgotten who your explorer was once again. Who was it?
Meriwether Lewis and William Clark.
Now talk about what they were exploring for.
They had 3 main reasons for exploring. One of the reasons was to find a water route to the Pacific Ocean. Another reason was to learn about the Native Americans they met. And the other reason was to record information on everything they learned about the new land.
Very cool. And then what happened with when their expedition was done? What was the result?
They discovered 122 types of animals, 178 new plants. They met more than 50 Indian tribes, and they recorded information on the climate, which was very helpful to future settlers of the West.
So 1 successful and 1 gold fever, it sounds like, on the explorers that you guys took a look at. Great job, guys. Thanks for being a part of Kansas Heritage Day on KCLY from Garfield School. Back again at Kansas Heritage Day and at Garfield School, we're joined by 2 very pretty young ladies that are going to talk about Kansas. But first, I want you to introduce yourselves.
I'm Kaylin Johnson, and my parents are Dory and Spencer Johnson.
And?
I'm Reese Giselbeck, and my parents are Josh and Quaylen Giselbeck.
Excellent. Kaylin, we're going to start with you. I have a question about Kansas. First, where did Kansas get its name?
The state was named for the Kansas Indians. In English, they were known as the people of the Southwind. The Kansas simply referred to themselves as the people, like many other American tribes.
And who were the Kansas Indians, Reese?
The Kansas Indians are Indians who once lived in eastern Kansas. Today they call themselves the Kaw. Some Kaws still live in Kansas today.
So did you find out how the Kansas Indians, now the Kaw, how they lived?
A Kansas house was built from a frame of wooden poles. The houses were big enough for 2 families. The wooden frames were covered with animal skins, tree bark, and woven grass mats. They got their food by killing animals and the plants by their houses. They also ate deer, rabbits, and small animals, as well as fish. Twice a year, they would go hunt buffalo in central Kansas.
Very cool. Now, Kaylin, tell me what the Kansas children did.
The boys learned to hunt, and girls helped their mom with younger siblings and helped prepare food.
Awesome. You guys rocked it. Well done. Enjoy the rest of Kansas Heritage Day, okay? Good job. Kaylin and Reese with us at Garfield School. Again at Kansas Heritage Day at Garfield School, and our first chance to talk with one of the presenters. Dee Warner has joined us. And Dee, you're talking about the Great Depression with 4th and 5th graders. How's that going to work?
I hope that they gain a little bit of knowledge from it, what it was like when we had the Great Depression, because I actually lived during the Great Depression.
What are your memories of that time?
Everyone was very, very poor. I wanted to tell them about the grasshopper invasion, the great storm that we had, just all of the trial and tribulations we went through. I lived in a house that had no electricity, no running water. We had one telephone that we shared with 19 people. And it was just a time when kids don't realize what we have today.
Well, and I think it is really tough for people to really have the concept of even what you're explaining to them because everything's so readily available right now.
I try to bring a lot of props with me, like kerosene lamp, a bucket with a rope that we use for our refrigerator down in a cistern. I try to explain what a cistern is. And I was raised right north of Belleville, which is 65 miles from Clay Center. And it was a hard time, but it was a good time too.
Do you believe that you can appreciate what you have now so much more because of going through that time?
Oh, my, yes, yes. When I tried to show the kids how my father fixed a shoe with new leather on it, it wasn't leather, but it was some sort of material, and I actually have one of the forms that he would put the shoe on, and the tacks that would come through with 2 pairs of shoes. Kids today have a different pair of shoes for every thing they have at school. And I have some material there that was flour sacks. Our clothes were all made with flour sacks. And it was just a different time, different era.
Yeah, without a doubt. And what a great resource for these kids to have a way to find out about it. Dee, thanks so much for being here with Kansas Heritage Day and for sharing.
You're welcome.
Dee Warner, again, is presenting at Kansas Heritage Day on the Great Depression. Kansas Heritage Day continues at Garfield School. Once again, joined by students from Garfield School, Kansas Heritage Day. And I'm going to have you to introduce yourselves first and introduce your parents, okay?
I'm Ava Runnebaum, and my parents are Danielle Runnebaum and John Runnebaum.
Great. And?
I'm Samuel Thomas, and my parents are Brian Thomas and Sarah Thomas.
Outstanding. All right, Sam, we're going to start with you. We're talking Pony Express today. So tell our listeners what the Pony Express was.
The Pony Express was a system of transporting mail. The riders got on their horses and they rode about 15 miles, and then they traded out horses so that then the horses that they were on could rest. After about 50 miles, they would trade out riders so that they could rest. And the pattern would continue on and on and on.
That's very cool. So, Ava, tell me, how did the Pony Express get started?
In order to send a letter over to California, it had to travel a special way. On April 3rd, 1860, a young man on horseback left St. Joseph, Missouri. He carried a leather saddlebag called a mochilas. These bags were filled with mail. The rider rode as fast as he could. He traveled 45 miles, where he gave the bags to another rider.
Awesome. Now, Sam, the Pony Express, why is it significant to Kansas?
Well, the telegraph line only went until St. Joseph, Missouri. And that was western Missouri. So the Pony Express only had to travel through a little bit of Missouri until they got to Kansas. So the first part of the Pony Express was through Kansas.
Awesome. And then how long did the Pony Express actually last?
The Pony Express lasted only 18 months. It ended as a new result of a form of communication. It was called the telegraph. He did it by using electricity.
Guys, you did great. Ava, Sam, keep up the good work, and thanks for all the information on the Pony Express at Garfield School at Kansas Heritage Day. Back again at Garfield School, Kansas Heritage Day, and joined by one of the presenters that's been a part of Heritage Day we were just talking about how it used to be when we were doing these interviews a few years back. Jean Fregon joins us, and she is talking food, pioneer food. Talk about what you do with the kids.
Okay, well, I make a presentation about how it was to cook in pioneer days, how difficult it was, different than we do now. We actually make an example of butter. The kids will make butter, and then they get to taste it on some homemade bread that I bring. So.
And what are the reactions? I'm sure are similar, at least from year to year. What are, I guess, some of the reactions you get, maybe on the taste or maybe how it's made?
Okay. I think that it's pretty amazing to see butter made out of just cream after they've shook it up for a while, and how we fix it to make it look like butter. Also, many of them have never had homemade bread, and most of them like it. I've had a few negative reactions, but most of them like it. So.
And does the butter taste like butter to them, do you think?
Yeah, it does. It's very similar, and it's actually just exactly the same. And then when they put it on the bread, it's a sweet bread, so they like that.
You bring the right stuff for the kid. Yeah, that's very cool. Jean, thanks so much for presenting again. I know the kids really enjoy it.
Thank you. I think this is about the 20th year, so I'm experienced. So thank you.
You're starting to figure it out probably now, huh? Jean Freegon, one of the presenters at Kansas Heritage Day. Back again at Kansas Heritage Day at Garfield School, and we have two more pretty young ladies that have joined us today to talk about Kansas Heritage Day. We have Michaela Smith and we have Jocelyn Thurlow. Michaela, first off, tell us who your parents are.
Brandy Smith and Aaron Smith.
Okay, and Jocelyn?
Joshua Thurlow and Christina Thurlow.
Great. Michaela, we're going to start with you. You guys have been doing some research. Tell me who you researched in Kansas.
Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Okay, and what was Laura Ingalls Wilder famous for?
Her books, like Little House on the Prairie series.
Have you read any of the books?
Yeah, I've read Little House in the Big Woods and School Days and a lot of different books from her.
Awesome. Sounds cool. Now talk about Laura Ingalls Wilder's childhood.
She lived in Wisconsin, and she lived in a big woods.
And she had lots of adventures, I bet, and why the books are so much fun to read. Jocelyn, who did you study?
I studied Martina McBride.
Martine McBride is a Kansan, and what is she famous for?
She is a country singer.
Very famous country singer. How many kids does she and her family have?
3.
3 kids. Do you like her music?
Yeah.
Yeah, I bet so. You guys have done awesome. Thanks so much for joining us here at Kansas Heritage Day at Garfield School. Have a good one, okay? Thanks a lot. Garfield School, the Kansas Heritage Day continues on KCLY. Back at Kansas Heritage Day, it's at Garfield School in Clay Center, and we're joined by Donna Reynolds, who's going to talk about Ike today with the kids. Talk about who you're representing first, and then we'll talk about your presentation.
All right. I am with the education program at the Eisenhower Foundation in Abilene, Kansas.
And Ike just had a very important license plate story come through. We did a story on KCLY on that. It was very impressive to see that happen. We're excited that did happen. So what will you share with the kids about the president from Abilene?
Well, being Kansas Day and Heritage Day, I'm going to talk about Ike as a young boy growing up in Abilene, which is a town similar to Clay Center. And he didn't plan on being president. So it kind of lets the kids know that you don't have to be rich and famous to become a president. You can come from humble beginnings. And just let them know some of the things that he enjoyed doing as a boy. Maybe they've done the same things.
I think it's very important to keep the history alive for people from Kansas, like these 4th and 5th graders, because it's weird to say, but it can get lost if we're not careful about it.
Exactly. And that's why we've developed an Ike education program. That we have over 30 programs that teachers can sign up to come to the Eisenhower Center to participate in. They can get online. Some of the programs they can use within their own classrooms. And our purpose is just to preserve the legacy of Eisenhower, since he was such a good leader in both a military situation in World War II and then to become the President of the United States. He has an amazing story.
And it's a real treasure, the museum and the grounds and everything that's in Abilene, and I hope people take advantage of it being so close and do go visit. Thanks so much for helping out with the kids here.
You're very welcome. I really look forward to seeing the kids. I'm a retired teacher, so it's fun for me to get back into the classroom and see the excitement of the kids.
Very, very good. Well, I'm sure you'll do a great job teaching on Ike today. Donald Reynolds with us on Kansas Heritage Day from Garfield School. Back again at Kansas Heritage Day, and a chance to talk with a couple of the presenters that are tag teaming together today. Ruth Ann Johnson, Rhonda Slingsby join us. Ruth Ann, let's start with you. The first thing I said when I asked what you guys are presenting was games came out of your mouth. So talk a little bit about the games you guys will talk about.
Well, we're going to be talking about some of the pioneer games, a little different than what the students have. They normally think about electronics and things, and they have to change their minds and get it into the perspective of there's no electricity, so how do you take your time, And we have homemade checkers, we have dice, we have, what else do we have, Rhonda?
Oh, let's see, we have the buzz saw that they make with a button and a string. Jack straws, which is like pickup sticks today. A lot of different things that are familiar today. But
do you think that once they kind of wrap their minds around it and get into playing these games that they truly enjoy them? I mean, I have a feeling I know the answer, but what do their faces look like as they kind of get into it?
They get really excited, and they'll ask, is this something that we can find somewhere? Could we make it? We often tell them some of the games we talk about they may do in the spring at the one-room school, so they're really excited about it.
That's very, very cool. Now, you also said, after saying games, real excited, and we'll talk about chores. So tell us about some of the chores you'll go over with the kids.
Well, the students aren't as happy to hear about the chores that they had to do, but things like milking cows and feeding the different animals on the farm, because most of the kids were farm kids, and how they are a little different from their chores today. I mean, they may make their bed, and of course they had to do that back then too, but there was more physically demanding things for the kids to do.
We talked with someone who's talking about the Great Depression, who lived through it. Dee Warner's here giving that. And I talked about perspective and can the students really wrap their heads around it? Do you think when they think about these chores that they can imagine actually having to do some of those things?
They always act shocked when we talk about some of these things and like, oh, I'm glad I don't have to do that today. I think they get into it as we talk about it, but it's just things they haven't thought about doing.
Well, it's great to keep the history of what people went through alive in the students, and I know that's what Kansas Heritage Day is all about. Thank you guys so much for presenting and working with the kids. We really appreciate it. Again, that's Rhonda Slingsby and Ruth Ann Johnson today at Garfield School. A chance again at Kansas Heritage Day at Garfield School to talk with one of the presenters. Connie Fregon joins us, and tell us what you're going to share with the kids again this year at Garfield School.
I'm going to talk about the one-room school and the part that it played in the settling of our communities. Kathy Haney always did this program, and she's a hard act to follow. But I'm going to try to portray to them what it was like and how we've changed in so many ways.
You imagine Kathy will probably be there with you a little bit, or nudging you along, don't you think?
Yes, I can see her smile. She could just kind of fly around that room and say things. Somebody asked me if I was going to do the Paul Revere, my memory. No, I am not, but she did.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate all the work you guys do and what you have done with the Garfield School, so have fun with them, okay?
I will. Thank you.
Again, joined at Kansas Heritage Day by one of the presenters at Garfield School, and Dr. Bob Smith joins us. He's with Fort Riley, and he is going to be talking about, the history of Fort Riley first, and also the military that might have been around in the Heritage Days, right?
That's correct. Fort Riley was established in 1853, became Fort Riley in 1855, so it's got a rich history with the state of Kansas.
Now, the kids, as they kind of start, they know Fort Riley. Everybody knows that name. It's kind of fun, I would think, to start to share some of the history and let them understand the roots of what they now know about.
Well, that's correct. What we're going to do today is talk about the history of Fort Riley, and we're going to do it through sort of an interesting thing. We brought educational trunks, so we can let them try on some reproduction period uniforms that will fit them, and give them a little sense of the history from 1853 all the way up to, we're actually doing up to the Second World War.
Oh, wow. I can tell you already, and I'm sure you've seen this happen as you've gone to different places, the kids must eat that up.
They love it. They love the uniforms, and it gives them a little bit of a hands-on history, and so it makes history relevant to them.
You, I know, work with the museums at Fort Riley. You said the director. For people who maybe are interested in seeing some of the history or getting into that, what are the procedure steps to get on and get a chance to get into the museums?
Okay. Well, to get on Fort Riley, you will have to proceed to the Access Control Center, which is right off of I-70 at the Marshall Airfield Gate. And they do a quick background check. It takes normally just a very few minutes. And the museums are about 5 minutes away. And we have two museums, the U.S. Cavalry Museum, which recounts the history of the cavalry from the American Revolution all the way up to the 1950s when the horse-mounted cavalry went away. We also have the 1st Infantry Division Museum, which talks about shows the history of the 1st Infantry Division from 1917 to the present, which is, I might add, the oldest continuously serving division in the United States Army, which has made Fort Riley its home since 1955.
And something we all should be very, very proud of, and I know we are, but it's nice to hear the history and understand a little bit more. Thanks so much for sharing with the 4th and 5th graders here at Garfield School.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Happy to be here.
Fort Riley well represented at Kansas Heritage Day at Garfield School. Back at Kansas Heritage Day, Garfield School hosting always a big celebration, and we're joined by Andy Contreras, who's been a part, I know, of Kansas Heritage Day now 5 years, he's telling me, non-verbally. But you are very verbal with the kids. Talk about what you guys get a chance to get into and have some fun with this thing.
Okay, well, we get to I take them through a little bit of learning about the instruments that they played on the planes and everything, and tell jokes too, because in fact, I've been doing this for 5 years, and there's still a kid that I see every now and then. He's not a kid no more, and he sees me and he goes A flat minor, because that's part of a joke that I tell them, and it's just good to know that they remember some things and they carry it on with them. We sing a lot of songs that they know. Of course, we end up with Home on the Range. It's a big heart song for all of these kids here. They love it. They also get to play instruments too. Some makeshift instruments, but then again, back then, they'd play pots and pans and spoons and stuff like that. So I give them a chance to do that, and I stay on them to make sure that they're having fun and they do play and they do sing, and that we do have a good time. And I had a lot of questions they asked me today, and first question was, "How old are you?" I said that doesn't make any difference. We'll go on to the next question. But no, they have a good time. I have a good time. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here for the last 5 years in a row. And I really look forward to coming here to seeing the kids and picking out the ones that may be on the Christmas tree someday, because I like to think that far ahead on who it's going to be and try to encourage them throughout the years to keep on singing so they can get up there.
You said one question caught you off guard. Do you have any questions that are seem to be asked over and over about the instruments or about different things that kind of each year you kind of expect?
When Bruce, my sidekick, is here, one of the questions that comes out is I play a thing we call it a gitjo. And nobody's ever heard of a gitjo or a bantar. What it is, it looks like a banjo, it sounds like a banjo, but it is not a banjo. And the reason, people say, I didn't know you could play banjo. Well, I can't. I play guitar. It has 6 strings, and it's played exactly like a guitar, but it sounds like a banjo, and it looks like a banjo. So I can fool everybody, and they ask questions about that and everything. And you really have to think banjo when you play it to make it seem like it is a banjo. And you can't play it like a guitar because it's not going to sound good at all. But I get a lot of questions about that one. Bruce is not here. He's vacationing. And so I'll hit him hard next time I see him.
The gitjo, I love it. That's great. Andy, thanks so much for being a part of what these kids get a chance to experience today.
Well, thank you very much. And we did have a survey last year about whether it's going to be a gitjo or a bantar, and gitjo won.
More fun to say, I think, don't you? Yeah, I think so. Andy Contreras, one of the presenters at Kansas Heritage Day at Garfield School.